Hello again, second grade, and welcome to the last lesson in Unit 3. This is Unit 3, Lesson 3, about a land of immigrants. And this lesson is talking about sharing cultures. So our essential question for this lesson says, how does culture shape a community? What do you think? So think about the different ways that things in your culture and things in other people's culture affect their community. And write a couple lines to answer that question. For the word hunt, circle the words blend, contribution, and custom when you find them on the page, and then find two other new words and write them down on those lines. So let's get started with our reading.
Lesson 3, Sharing Culture. Essential question. How does culture shape a community? What do you think? Immigration Today. This is the final week of presentations, said Mrs. Jones. It was Paula's turn to present. Many immigrants still move to the United States every year, said Paula. Today, immigrants come to the United States from all over the world. Paula explained that all immigrants have shaped the United States as a place where many cultures blend together. Paula told the class that many new immigrants to the United States have a hard time at first. This is true whether they came long ago or today. It is not easy to start a new life in a brand new country. No matter where immigrants come from, most move to the United States in search of a better life, said Paula. Many still come to find jobs. Others still come to escape war and hunger in their home countries. Religious freedom also continues to be a reason why immigrants come to the United States today. Paula told the class that immigrants have made many contributions to our country. A contribution is the act of giving or doing something. Over time, the beliefs and customs of different immigrant groups have added to the culture in the United States. A custom is a special way of doing something that is shared by many people. For instance, many families celebrate birthdays with cake. Quick check. What are some reasons immigrants move to the United States today?
Okay, let's stop and think about our essential question here about what are some reasons immigrants move to the United States? And that lines up with our first question on page 81 that says, circle the reasons why immigration continues today. So what are reasons that people still come to the United States today? And we want to use our text evidence. So we're going to go back and look at the beginning of page 81. And we can see in that first paragraph that it says, no matter where immigrants come from, most move to the United States in search of a better life. Many still come to find jobs. Others still come to escape war and hunger in their home countries. Religious freedom also continues to be a reason why immigrants come to the United States today. So that whole paragraph gives a bunch of different reasons why people would leave their home country and move to the United States. Now, the second question says, what is a custom that you share with your family? So think about something that you do at home with your family and write it down on that line. All right, once you've completed that, we're going to move on to the next page. So we've listened to the section about urban and suburban and rural communities. So again, urban communities, there are three kinds of communities. We have a city like New York is an urban community. Urban communities have many tall buildings and stores. The streets and sidewalks are busy with people, cars, buses, and taxis. What are some features of a city? So remember, a city is an urban community. So use complete sentences on page 82 to write down some of the features or some of the things that you would find in a city or an urban community. Remember, those are basically the same thing. Once you've completed page 82, we're going to go on to 83, and we're going to review suburban and rural communities. So a community that's near a city is called a suburban community. Suburban communities are less crowded than urban areas, There are not as many places to work, and people might even travel to the urban community to work. So a suburban community is usually where you find a lot of houses where people live, where they have to drive a little way for them to get to work. It's usually quieter, it's less crowded, it's less busy, so it's a good place to live. And rural communities are far from cities. These areas have lots of open land, and it might take a long time to get to school or the store. There are a lot of farms in rural communities. So for rural communities, since they're big open spaces, they're ideal for farmland. They're ideal for having any kind of cattle, like cows and sheep and horses and anything that you would have on a farm. Now, our question on this page says, what type of community would you most like to live in and why? So please use complete sentences to share what kind of community you'd want to live in and why you would want to live there. Once you've answered page 82 and 83 using complete sentences, we're going to go on to learning new customs.
Learning new customs. Paula continued with her presentation. She had researched how other cultures have added to the culture of the United States. Paula took pictures of things she saw in her neighborhood. She made a poster to show how other cultures have influenced things like food, music, clothing, art, language, and celebrations. This picture shows an Italian restaurant in our neighborhood. Long ago, Americans did not eat spaghetti. Immigrants from Italy made it popular in our country. Today, Americans enjoy making spaghetti at home and eating it in restaurants. My family and I took a walk in our neighborhood, and we noticed a group of people playing jazz music. Africans who came to the United States brought songs and rhythms with them. Musicians in the United States changed the music and turned it into jazz. Jazz, blues, and hip-hop are just some of the kinds of music we listen to today that grew out of African music. Mrs. Ross, our librarian, was wearing a shirt made out of silk. Silk cloth was invented in China. Many Chinese immigrants brought silk with them when they came to the United States. Silk is very soft and is used today to make clothing. Quick check. What music do we listen to in the United States that grew out of African music?
Let's take a minute to think about our essential or quick check question. What music would you listen to in the United States that grew out of African music? So we can see this area in purple writing on page 85 tells us that Africans who came to the United States brought songs and rhythms with them. Musicians in the United States changed the music and turned it into jazz. Jazz, blues, and hip hop are some of the kinds of music that you would listen to today that grew out of African music. So we have jazz, blues, and hip hop. Now on page 85, it says, think about other foods, music, and clothing from different cultures. Describe one of them in a journal entry. So you're going to write a few sentences describing the culture of describing a different culture by talking about their food, music, and clothing. So take a minute to complete that. Once you're done, we're going to go on to pages 86 and 87, and this will take us towards the end of the lesson before we start talking about our unit wrap-up.
Many cultures. My family and I went to a Caribbean carnival downtown. It was so colorful. People were dressed in costumes and dancing. Long ago, people in the Caribbean islands danced through their villages in costumes. Today, people enjoy practicing this tradition at carnivals around the world. I went to the Miami Art Museum with my family. I noticed some paintings that were made by an African-American artist named Jacob Lawrence. He was inspired by African art, which typically uses flat shapes and bright colors. He borrowed these ideas and made them a part of his work. When I was walking home from school last week, someone asked if I had seen their missing Chihuahua. I had never heard of a Chihuahua. The person said a Chihuahua is a kind of dog. The name comes from a state in Mexico. This is an example of a Mexican word that we use in our language today. Some customs are brought to the United States by immigrants. Other customs are created right here, said Paula. Together, these customs from near and far mix and make one big culture that we all share. In fact, the United States has one of the most diverse cultures on earth. The class clapped for Paula at the end of her presentation. Mrs. Jones told everyone that they had done a wonderful job teaching each other. Quick check. What are some things other cultures have added to the culture of the United States?
Okay, let's think about our quick check question for this lesson. What are some things that other cultures have added to the culture of the United States? Now, from what we've read throughout this lesson and what we've seen in our own lives, we know that other cultures have brought us delicious foods, music, beautiful clothing, very unique art, some wonderful celebrations. So these are all things that have been contributions from other cultures. So what I would like for you to do on page 86 at the bottom, it says, write down something that you learned from Paula's presentation. So anything that you've read in this lesson or listened to in this lesson that you found interesting, go ahead and write it down on that line. And for page 87 and our essential question, how does culture shape a community? Now that you have more information on that, please use a complete sentence to answer that. Once you've completed that, I would like for you to do your quiz for that lesson and to take a look at your Unit 3 wrap-up. Now, this page is pretty simple. Make sure you put your name and date at the top. And what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line from the vocabulary word on the left side to the definition of that word on the right side. Please try and draw straight lines. You can use a ruler or the edge of a book to help you make straight lines so that they're easier to follow. Once you've double checked your answers and done that very carefully, you can upload that. Now, our big idea project is going to be due when we return. So I need you to go ahead and take a look at our big idea project right now. Get familiar with it. If you want to start early, you can absolutely start early. If you finish early, you can turn it in early. So I'm going to upload for you into Google Classroom this sheet, this page 89 from your book that talks about the big idea, as well as the rubric that I'm going to use to grade your project and a letter describing a little bit more about the details of the project. But in essence, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating a poster about your culture. So this is usually a really fun project. You get to ask questions to your parents or grandparents, aunts and uncles, where they can tell you and show you some pretty amazing things from your family's culture. You're going to make sure that your poster shows different kinds of food and clothing from your culture, shows some of the music and or art that are found in your culture, shows some of the celebrations that are celebrated in your culture. And it's got to be really colorful and detailed. So don't just put pictures on a poster. You're going to have to write a description about what that is. So if it's a particular kind of clothing, tell me what the name of that article of clothing is. Who generally wears it? Why do they wear it? Is it something that's worn for a special occasion, or is it something that's worn on a regular day? For the art, if it's something that's found in a lot of the art in your culture, what does that thing represent? Why is it something that's important where it's showing up multiple times in culture? If you're writing about a food, so you're going to put a picture of the food, but underneath you're also going to talk about what the name of that food is, What is it made of? Is it a traditional dish that's usually used for celebrations, or is it something that people eat at home on a regular day? So all of these things provide more detail. So you're going to be sharing your culture. So I want you to create a poster that shows who you are and how your culture influences your life. And I want you to be really proud of your work. So when you do your video describing your culture, I want to make sure you have all of the information listed there. All right, that takes you through to the very end of Unit 3. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, second grade. Bye-bye.